G'day, I'm Ali Amo, and this is the Lease on Life podcast. As the creator of the Web of Life, I feel it is my duty not only to present it in a book and for people to be able to work with me, but I feel like it's my duty to use my background as a teacher to share this knowledge and information with as many people as possible. Therefore, I must take as many avenues as possible. So before we get into today's episode, I'll start with the funny. I've got this interesting feedback. Very unusual, but it kind of made my day. So I was contacted online by an Australian guy named Matthew, who had heard about me through something else online and came looking for the podcast. So the feedback he wanted to give me, he just said, "Oh, Ali, I checked out your podcast." And I went, "Oh, okay, what did you think?" And he goes, "Oh, I was definitely not in the right headspace for that." And I went, "What did you listen to?" And he said, "Oh, the Egypt guy." And I went, "Oh, okay." And I went, why weren't you in the right headspace? What do you mean? Like you weren't ready to take in information? He goes, "Oh no, I was stoned." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, nah mate. Yeah, you really messed that up. You shouldn't have done that." That cracked me up. I also got a little bit more info from people on social media and that same cycle that we're all stuck in. When the self-help cycle becomes the can't help myself cycle. It's funny that we all do this on the same stuff, but there's a lot of travel and restaurants and do-it-yourself hacks, and cleaning hacks was another one that came up, which I thought was really interesting. Also, shows to go to or events that are on as well, and it's something that's maybe screenshot on their phone and they just sit there and they never actually go through it. So when they go through their photos, they've got a million things that they could have, would have, should have done but didn't. So it is an ongoing cycle for many of us. So I don't know about you, but that's something that I'm definitely trying to avoid repeating. I'm very conscious when I do save something and I'm starting to categorize things. When it comes to the cycles in your life and the bugs, there was always an environment for every experience that you had that gave you the bug in your web. But it's also caused by a relationship with someone. We have this struggle with suffering in society. It's a world cycle, this idea of suffering. It's interesting how you may come across this information through different channels. It's actually embedded into Hinduism. However, what I'm about to share with you is also a part of the structure in Buddhism as well. Nonetheless, the same information was shared in different places of the world in different ways and expressed with the same intention. It's not just to inform, it's to guide your understanding so that your practice in life is improved, really. Your experience in life based on your practices is improved. I found this in a book that I read many years ago and like to come back to often. It's called The Inner Tradition of Yoga. So this is written by Michael Stone with a foreword by Richard Freeman. And the tag is A Guide to Yoga Philosophy for the Contemporary Practitioner. Look, some of you have your own little cycle when it comes to yoga. And it might be positive, it might be negative, and it might be neutral. But people tend to misunderstand what yoga is and why yoga is. It's not really helped by the cycles that are prevalent in society when it comes to yoga. It's been misrepresented as well. It happens in a lot of the practices that center around energy in any way. I could argue that Reiki from what it was originally and why it was originally, what has been done with it, and the gimmicks attached to it. I understand the global cycles that are in place for that to be part of your marketing and your content and your business stuff, and to try and differentiate yourself and have a unique selling proposition to people. But the problem with doing these things when it comes to important practices, whether you see it as a spiritual thing or not, it is very much physical. What people misunderstand when it comes to yoga is that you're focused so much on what you're seeing that you're interpreting it to be a physical practice, when the truth of the matter is it is mental and emotional first. The physical action is taken to experience the mental and emotional processes that occur underneath. So, to give it to you straight, you can uncover many of the cycles that you have, the mental and emotional parts, through doing yoga. The hard part of uncovering how your cycle functions, the physical stuff, you see it. It's a lot more obvious. The mental and emotional, though, that's the key. The key to breaking a cycle is in breaking the mental and emotional parts of it first. But you can't do that without fully understanding and comprehending its significance, its operation, its functioning, and how you respond to that. Yoga gives you a physical activity that may seem completely disconnected from your mental and emotional experiences, but it is very much the physical guide into yourself. And what I'm about to explain to you are the 5 factors that motion the wheel of suffering. So these 5 factors explain why you suffer. It all happens in its own cycle. These 5 factors have a cycle of their own. It should make sense to you how your cycle operates a little bit better as a whole in understanding this. Now, the English translation is the 5 factors the 5 factors motioning the wheel of suffering. But even if you look at each of these individual, they explain why you suffer. And the truth is, you don't do them separately, you do them simultaneously, and you do them repeatedly. It's a wheel of suffering, like the cycle goes around and around and around, and it happens through your experiences. So yoga is meant to serve you to be able to develop your awareness of these factors in your life in real time while they are in motion. And if you can start to recognize those factors in operation, taking that step back and seeing how they function on their own, then you can understand how to break it. I might mispronounce this, and I'm not going to lie, I expect to, but I'll give it a crack anyway and just see if I die. So they're called Kleshas. There are 6 poisons that are symptoms of these 5. So the 6 poisons are desire, anger, delusion, greed, envy, and sloth. The 7 deadly sins, we're in the same ballpark as that. So those are the 6 poisons: anger, desire, delusion, sloth, greed, and envy. It's those 6 things that push this wheel, and the factors that keep it going, I'm about to introduce to you. You know that saying, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. When it comes to something like death or the end of life, I think we can all agree that we don't understand all the why, all the how, all the where, the when, and the what. Some people struggle to understand why it's necessary too. A lot of people ask why when they lose people. We don't really see things as they are. We thought that once you see an object like a wall or a door, that is it. And we look deeper and we find there's more to uncover. And even when they thought the atom was the smallest particle, they keep finding more. So we constantly discover that as humans, we don't understand the truth about things. That is called avidya. You don't see things as they are. And that's one of the 5 Kleshas. The next 2 kind of go hand in hand. So one is called raga, that is attachment, and the other one is devesa, and that's aversion. So you've got attachment and aversion coming together, and you're constantly flicking between the two. Then comes asmita, which is, I see it like the ego, the I, me, my, and mine story stuff. And that's a form of attachment. The last one is abhinivesa, and that is the thirst for further existence. Not seeing things as they are. Attachment. Aversion. The stories of I, me, and mine. And the thirst for further existence. The thirst for further existence thing might sound a little bit what? The best way to sort of characterize that is the fear of death. So when you actually think about dying, the fear, you don't think about your body decomposing or, creatures eating your body parts and all of that. It's not the reality of the situation, of the physical vessel becoming undone. That's not the fear that you have. When people contemplate their death, it's more about the death of the I, the ego stuff, the death of asmita, or the story of me, I, my, mine, all of that stuff, this self that's created. So you can see that these 5 things are very much connected, because as you're perceiving your experience, you're not actually seeing things as they are. I think an easy way to understand this is if you try to meditate, for example, you're in the experience and you might struggle with trying to keep still, get comfortable, clear your mind, calm your mind, slow your mind, or observe your mind. Just all of this might just get too much for you and you give up. You're not actually seeing things as they are. You're actually trying to experience a practice where you understand all of that stuff that you were doing is part of the process, is part of life, is part of your experience. And while you're in it, be able to observe yourself in it instead of just being in it, observing the world or observing around you. Because as we perceive the things around us, the people around us, the things that happen, the things we read, watch, listen to, all of that, we don't quite see things as they are. We don't see them clearly. As a result of that, we form connections and disconnections is sort of the way I see attachment and aversion. Aversion in itself is an attachment because you become attached to avoiding something. It hurts. I don't like it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to stop that because it's uncomfortable. It's not easy for me, so I'm going to stop that and I'm not going to do it again. When it comes to attachment, you like doing the things that are easy. You like doing the things that are comfortable. You stay with the things that you're attached to because they're easy, because they're comfortable, because it takes no stress, no pressure, no pain. And when you do experience something that you dislike, for whatever reason, but it's easy to use physical pain, something that's unusual for you and creates a sensation that you're not familiar with. You haven't gotten used to the practice of observing the sensation just where it is as it is, which automatically detaches you from the self that you create. This is the asmita. the I, me, mine, this self that feels the pain. Ow, my hip hurts when I move my leg like that. Things like yoga actually allow you the opportunity to experience the sensations that rise and fall with the different movements and sequences and poses. And you learn to understand how your mind processes, how you want to stay in the positions that feel really good and you don't want to leave them. You want to like stay for at least 20 seconds. Whereas the first 3 to 5 seconds into a new, if you want to call it, move, sequence, pose, stretch, position, whatever. As soon as it starts to feel awkward, uncomfortable, unstable, tense, you feel that tension in your body, a sensation that you might attribute to pain. The second that happens, you're not observing the sensation that you feel. You become the self that is in pain, if that makes sense. You're not just a being with a sensation. Instantly, you want to avoid it. You want to back off, or you want to move through this quickly. Even just the process of trying to breathe through it, the way you breathe changes. Your prana, your energy, it changes because there's that tension. The way the energy is moving through your body to be able to give you that life force shifts when you have that. But you know, when you're doing this practice, it's not forever. You don't permanently live in this position. It's not your forever. It's for right now. And you start to see how you organize your thoughts, your emotions, how quickly you attach, how quickly you avert. I get to the point, I'll be doing yoga on my own and I'm following someone online. I love Sarah Beth Yoga and Yoga with Adrienne. And when you're observing somebody in a pose that is absolutely killing you and you hear something like 3 more long, smooth, deep breaths, my mind's like, oh dear God. And I will push through it, but even my breathing is like, it's not long and deep and smooth because my energy's shifting. It's not comfortable. Part of that can't breathe very long and deep and smoothly is because of the aversion that I'm having to the sensation that I'm feeling, because the stories of me, it's my pain, this hurts, I don't like this is uncomfortable. At the end of the pose, I'll just go, oh, thank God. Or just like take the deep exhale at the end, just with gratitude, because now I'm in something that's more comfortable and it's a lot more peaceful. It's a lot easier to breathe. That yoga series you might do, it's kind of like a little metaphor for life. At the start, it's sort of slow and sets you up, kind of like you come out of the womb and you're nurtured and supported into your growth so that you start to do more difficult things, are more challenges, picked up as you grow up, sort of thing. And it's kind of like that in yoga. And it's the way to teach you that process that you go through to understand your suffering. You start to find the individual cycles that you have when something is difficult. That's what it's about, and getting there. People get lost in the practice itself, so much so that they miss the actual lesson, the fundamental pillars of what yoga is and why yoga is. So I want you to keep those 5 things in mind, because those factors motion the wheel of suffering, but they are in constant operation while you're experiencing. And the cycles that you create are very much around these 5 things. So they are not seeing things as they are, but not knowing that you don't see things as they are. Aversion, attachment, the I, think ego, but I, me, mine, but that self that you create. and the thirst for further existence, or the fear of death. We'll get into this more as we go along, but I just wanted to introduce you to the 5 Kleshas. I think there are many important lessons that we can learn from all religions and all beliefs, considering the truth that we don't really see things as they are. We see them as we are, or as we think they are. We see them as we think is probably the better way to say that. Aversion and attachment is something that we are constantly flipping and flopping and fluttering back and forth from at any given time. Even when it comes to recording this episode. You know, when you've fully got the energy for something and you're buzzing with ideas and you just can't wait to do it. And then there are times where it's like, I'm just really not feeling it. Things aren't going well. I just can't be bothered. That happened to me. And the things that could have gone wrong for the most part did. Everything was really challenging. Because I knew I was going to talk about this with you, these things have been swirling in my head. They're at the forefront for the last couple of days. And I realized that it was not only aversion, because it wasn't easy and it wasn't smooth and it wasn't being comfortable and just the basic things weren't happening today. I then realized that that aversion is also the attachment that I have to, when it feels good, do it. When it goes well, go with it. You know, the idea is you go with the ebbs and flows. So I decided to whip out this app and just see what comes out of my mouth and how things flow. I always have the ability to edit, and hopefully I say some decent shit in the meantime. I know people are either for yoga or you're just not interested in it, but a lot of people don't realize what it does. So what I want you to take from this, outside of understanding those 5 factors that keep every cycle repeating, I want you to understand how practices like yoga can help you to break the cycle and teach you what your cycles are and show you how quickly and easily you make them. With all these devices and things that we have that need constant updating because they have bugs, right? Bugs that need to be fixed and sorted. It always makes me think when I get that notification that it needs to happen, how many times I have ignored the updates that needed to happen first and foremost. But when I eventually do them, it always makes me think, while it's like reloading, I think to myself, imagine if we collectively updated ourselves as much as our phones and computers and devices and things need updating. Update our understanding, update our awareness, and update as a form of personal development. Find different bugs that need fixing and update them. Just food for thought. So thanks for being here with me for this app. New ones will come out to you every other Thursday. The long-awaited ebook version of Detangling the Web of Life, the complete guide to understanding you and everyone else, is getting ready for a launch, and it'll be 99 cents for that 24 hours. So stay tuned. If you'd like to snag yourself a copy, please take it easy and you'll hear from me soon. If you'd like to stay up to date in the world of Ali Ammo, follow me on socials.